Crimper. Think of the crimper as the most fundamental physical tool in a network technician's bag. If the switches and routers are the digital brains of your infrastructure, the crimper is the tool you use to physically build its nervous system. Up to this point, we have talked about how data flows through the air and across massive fiber optic rings. But inside a standard office or a home lab, that data relies on twisted pair copper cables when you need to create custom lengths of that cable or repair a broken connection. The crimper is the heavy-duty mechanical tool that makes it happen. The purpose, why we don't just buy pre-made cables. You might wonder why a professional doesn't just buy a box of pre-made Ethernet cables from a store. There are two major reasons. First is customization and cost. If you are wiring an entire office building, you don't buy individual cables. You buy massive 1,000-foot spools of bulk Cat6 cable. You pull the exact length you need from the server rack, through the ceiling, and down into the wall of a cubicle. Second is physical installation. You physically cannot pull a cable with a chunky plastic connector on the end through small drilled holes in wood or narrow conduit pipes. You must pull the bare wire first, and then use the crimper to permanently attach the connector at the very end of the journey. The anatomy of the tool. At first glance, a crimper looks like a heavy-duty pair of pliers or wire cutters, but it is a highly specialized piece of precision equipment. A professional crimper usually has 3 distinct sections. The cutting blade, used to cleanly snip the heavy copper wire. The stripping notch, a precisely measured circular blade designed to score and remove the outer plastic jacket of the cable without slicing into the delicate wires inside. The crimping die, this is the heart of the tool. It features specialized square slots designed to perfectly hold a plastic RJ45 connector for network cables or an RJ11 connector for telephone lines. The process, the art of the crimp. Using a crimper requires patience and precision. If you are going to master physical networking, you must understand exactly how this mechanical process works. First, you use the stripping notch to remove about 1 inch of the outer jacket. Inside, you will find 4 pairs of tightly twisted copper wires. You must untwist them and flatten them out completely straight. Next comes the most critical part for your CompTIA A+ exam, the color code. You must align the 8 tiny wires in a very specific order. The industry standard is known as T568B from left to right. The wires must be perfectly aligned as orange-white, orange, green-white, blue, blue-white, green, brown-white, brown. Once they are in order, you use the cutting blade on the crimper to snip the wires perfectly flush. You carefully slide those 8 wires into the hollow channels of a clear plastic RJ45 connector. The mechanical magic, piercing the copper. When you place that connector into the die of the tool and squeeze the handles with massive force, 2 critical things happen simultaneously. First, a plastic wedge near the back of the connector is crushed downward, biting fiercely into the outer jacket of the cable. This is called strain relief. It ensures that if someone trips on the cable, the pulling force is placed on the tough outer jacket, not on the delicate copper wires. Second, and most importantly, the tool pushes exactly 8 microscopic metal teeth down into the connector. The plastic connector has 8 gold-plated pins resting on top. The crimper drives those gold pins straight down like tiny guillotines, piercing right through the colored insulation of the 8 individual wires and biting directly into the raw copper inside. This creates a flawless, permanent electrical connection without you ever having to manually strip the tiny internal wires. Troubleshooting the Layer 1 failure. As an IT professional, you will quickly learn that a bad crimp is the #1 cause of physical network failures. If you do not push the wires far enough into the connector before squeezing the crimper, the gold pins will miss the copper completely. If even one of those 8 pins fails to make contact, your connection will suffer. If the specific pins used for data transmission fail, the computer will say network cable unplugged. if you are using a gigabit connection and one of the secondary pins fails. The computer might silently downgrade your speed from 1000 megabits down to a crawling 100 megabits. Because the crimp is permanent, there is only one way to fix a mistake. Use the cutting blade on the crimper to chop the plastic end completely off, strip the jacket, untwist the wires, and start the entire process over again.